everybody. Hello. I am so super excited for this interview today. I've been, just thinking about it all week, and I've been excited about it all week. And, I had the opportunity to go into Christa's Facebook group, The Savvy Money Mindset, yesterday and have a chat about selling authentically. And now we get to have her expertise in our group. And I am just so excited about this. And I know so many of you guys are excited about it because you've been posting about how you've been clearing your schedule so that you can be here with us today. So I'm really, really excited. Hoping that Facebook does its job of letting you know that we are live. And if you are live with us, if you can just go ahead and drop your name down below, let us know that you're joining the live. Give us some hearts, give us some emojis so that we can kind of boost that algorithm and let our other sisters know that we are live as well. And if you are watching the replay with us, go ahead and let us know that you are doing that as well, because we want to make this interactive for you guys. I'm going to keep an eye on the, in the group here. There is about a 20-second delay, but I'm going to keep an eye on the group here. We want to make this interactive. And if you are watching the replay, we're happy to go back and, answer any questions that you have as, you are watching the replay. So let us know down below. Today is going to be chock full of so many nuggets that will make such a huge difference in your perspective on money and business. Something that I see every day in my business with the women that I work with is that they have, so many of us have this unhealthy relationship with money, and it can look like so many different things. And Chris is going to, talk to us about what that looks like and, how that can really be showing up in your business right now. And most of the time, we're not even aware of these things, right? And so we're going to really dive into that. We're going to talk about how each of us has our own unique blueprint or personality around money, and how that influences us in our business, and how getting to know what our unique personality is around money is going to really, help us to leverage the strengths of that personality. And then, how can we shift some of the the aspects of it that maybe hold us back in our business or block us sometimes, right? And so I'm really excited about this. And let me just give a few shout outs to those of you who are here. I see Kathy, welcome. Hello, Rayanne. So good to see you. And drop it down below in the comments, guys. What piqued your interest about joining us today? What are you hoping to learn, to gain from this? What excites you? Just let us know down below. Because I would imagine there's a lot of different ways that we can go with this conversation, but we really want to hear from you and, where you're at right now. And if you have questions, I'm sure Christa will help answer some of those as well. So I wanted to bring Christa Cheverie into our group to explore this more deeply, because I see this all the time. And and if you've been into my world for any period of time, you will know that I talk so much about the non-strategy things that hold us back in our business. Okay. It's one thing to have a great strategy, but what are all the different factors that hold us back? So if, we were to take the same 5 people and give them all the same strategy, why do they have varying levels of success in their business? It's really that in-between secret sauce type stuff. And, this is one of the key components here that we're talking about today. So Christa is a money mindset coach. She started her first business after graduating from nutrition school, and she was excited to help people improve their health, but she found it so hard to charge for her services that she started giving everything away just for free, including potential clients. And so after studying money blocks and making progress in healing her own relationship with money, she began noticing now how many other entrepreneurs had similar struggles, and she has now become a money mindset coach herself. And so she helps online entrepreneurs release their lingering money blocks so that they can be even more successful in their business. So welcome, Christa. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I love these chats.
Yes, me too. And we're going to just kind of jam with each other. So, and we're just going to kind of see where this conversation goes. But I think to at least start us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this? I know I just gave the Cliff Notes version, but tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got into this.
So what I do, like you said, I'm a money mindset coach. So I help entrepreneurs release their lingering money blocks, so they can be even more successful in their business. So like you said, you've got the strategy, you're doing the work, but something's not clicking, or it's just not getting where you want it to go. You're not able to get past, maybe it's an income plateau and you can't get past it.
Yeah.
Maybe, you're kind of keeping yourself stuck at a certain level. And that's kind of where I come in, and I work with clients and I help you kind of dig down, figure out what those limiting beliefs are that are keeping you stuck around money, success. And then we get those out of there. That's, it falls under what I do and how I got into it. Like I said, I started my first business when I came out of nutrition school. I went into nutrition school because I'm sure this is a lot of the people in your group will relate to this. I went into nutrition school because I wanted to help people. I wanted to become a nutritionist. I had zero desire to ever run a business. And this kind of gets back to our conversation yesterday about being like authentic. And my examples of business people, as I was like, growing up and going to school and stuff like that was, I didn't want to wear a suit, and that's just not who I am. And if that's what I have to be to run a business, I'm going in the opposite direction. I was very science-based, became a nutritionist, come out, and then you find out kind of like halfway through nutrition school that you're not going to get a great job and you're not going to make a lot of money and you're not really going to be able to help people unless you start your own thing. And that's kind of like, oh wait, had I known that going in, I would have.
Yeah. You kind of got thrown into the deep end of the pool with that one.
Yeah. So I would have never chosen it because I didn't have any desire to ever have my own business. And then, so I come out of nutrition school, you hang up your shingle and you're going to help people and you're very excited, and then crickets and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then every little nibble I was getting, I was like, oh, no, you know what? It's fine. It's just practice for me here. I'll just spend 4 days doing this for you and you can just have this protocol and it's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you want to work with me because we get along really good? Well, do you know what? I've got this other friend, Lauren, and she's a nutritionist, and why don't you I'll give you her number. It was awful. And then eventually I joined a business coach who kind of got me straight, like, you don't have a business. You're not taking in any money.
Right.
And I was bumping up against
That's a hard truth.
It was a very hard truth. And it was one that was so necessary. And once I started kind of, grappling with that and understanding, I'm like, yeah, I really don't have a business. And looking at like, why aren't I telling people my prices? Why can't I say it? And then you start digging into that. And, that's when I kind of discovered money blocks. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. And then immediately was like, oh yeah, okay, this is where I grew up. This is how I grew up. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And as I started kind of picking away at it, I'd be in a mastermind, or I'd be at this conference and I'd be hearing people get on stage and talking about why, in the hot seat, talking about their business. And I'm like, but that's not a strategy problem. That's a money problem. That's a money mindset problem. I can start seeing it in other people and to start seeing like these women who have such great ideas and so much energy for what they're doing and so much passion for what they're doing, but they're holding themselves back on this other side that's not being addressed. Like, I know you talk a lot about mindset in your program, but in a lot of the business programs, it gets touched on and then that's it, right? It's like, well, this is something you should work on, but this isn't what I'm teaching this. And I just have so many people that were just holding themselves back that I just got out of nutrition and went this way instead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's
that ripple effect, right? Like I can help nutritionists help more people. That way I'm helping more people than me just.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you can empower the people who are empowering others, then your impact is bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like on a very surface level, people know, okay, yeah, my mindset needs to be good, or like, they understand it on a very kind of surface level, right? But it's still our tendency to want to fix things through, knowledge,
Mm.
strategy, and to kind of look for those external things, those things outside of us, um really, which is very disempowering, because we have the answers within, but a lot of times we think somebody else knows better than us, when really, if we're willing to do that internal work that you do with your clients to figure out, okay, why am I not implementing this strategy? Why am I not confident when somebody reaches out to me and says, can I work with you? I was talking to a gal last night, same thing. People coming to her saying, can I pay you? Can you tell me more about what you do? And she said, I don't want to feel like I'm prospecting anyone. And I was like, but they're coming to you. So there's a block there. And so until we get to that block, we often stay stuck.
Yeah. And all the strategy in the world isn't going to help that. Like you could be giving them the absolute, this is the key to the gold mine strategy. This is what's going to get you 100 client of whatever your client, whatever client where you want. This is the answer. And there's no, you don't have to modify it. I'm just going to give you the answer. But if you're not willing to take the money in the end, none of that mattered. And then you're going to get caught up in the busy work as well, right? Like all of a sudden your website's going to be so important to get 100% right. And Jerry, you have all your colors properly.
You're distracting and procrastinating.
Yeah, you're working on your business, but you're so terrified to actually make any money with it. You're not going to.
Right. Amazing. So tell me a little bit about the kinds of ways that these different blocks manifest in your business. Like, what does that look like? If somebody doesn't know, or they think maybe they have a block, but they're not sure, what are examples of how this is impacting your business right now? Like, how would you know I need to work on this?
Things like, well, I mean, right away, if you're giving a lot of stuff away for free, there's something there. If you're discounting everything, there's something there. If you're discounting something, but you're discounting it before they even ask for the discount, that's an even bigger.
For sure.
Fine, right? And income plateau is another one. Like you just can't seem to break past that 6-figure mark or the 50K mark or 5K months or whatever it is. And you kind of got yourself at this like, this maximum that you can't seem to move past. That's a good indication as well.
Yeah.
And then there's other things with just the ideas of success, right? Like those are kind of more symptoms. There could just be thoughts that are running through your head, like I'm never going to be successful. That could be indicative of success blocks, but we have so much money, and success is so intertwined. And most of us define our success by our money, that you might be hiding your money block under a success. Like you think you're not going to be successful. So you might be hearing the word success, but really there's money stuff under there as well.
Sure.
That's a big one. Not wanting to get bigger, like, just having the idea of having a bigger business, but not being able to really execute on it because you're scared. Like, that's not something you're probably going to register in your mind at this stage, but there could be some, because, these money blocks are so insidious and they like to hide, and your mind likes to trick you that they're not there. So you're not like, these aren't the same ones that are running around like the I'm not good enough, or I don't feel sexy. And when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, these ones are hiding under other things. And they don't generally just come out and say, oh no, but I don't want to grow a bigger business because I'm scared to make more money. Like that's not the words that are happening in your head.
For sure. And I think a lot of people think that money blocks, or abundance blocks are just, fear of like failing or not being worthy, or, things like that, or fear of judgment, fear of receiving, but, fear of success, like you mentioned, like that's a big one. That's one that I had to overcome, because I had a lot of sabotage around fear of success. I just kept sabotaging my success.
Yeah. And that's what it looks like. And that's the other thing, right? It looks like self-sabotage. If you feel like you're sabotaging yourself in any way, there's probably something bigger there. And there's like, and it's not like you say, everybody thinks it's like a problem with receiving, or just a problem with feeling abundant, and you're stuck in a lack mentality. And that's the stuff that we see on, spread all over the line and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's things like, I'm not responsible with money. Maybe you went into debt. Maybe you got your first credit card at 18, went off to university, racked up a whole bunch of debt, got a belief in your mind now that you're not good with money. Or maybe it came from something that happened, maybe it wasn't even you, maybe it was something that was going on in your house when you were a kid, and you just picked up this belief that, oh God, like money's bad.
Right.
Money's bad. You are not going to do the work to make the money because you're going to be avoiding it because it's bad, or money is the root of all evil. You're going to be running in the opposite direction.
Sure.
So things like, I'm not responsible with money is one that I hear from clients. Or if I make X, I will lose Y.
Right.
If I make this much money, I'm going to lose, I can't make more than my husband. I can't make more than my uncle. I can't make more than my father.
Yeah.
Or if I make more than my mother, she's going to feel bad. Like those are little things that you're not going to pick up on. They're just going to be so ingrained in the way that you're running, the way you're doing. So you're not necessarily, like I said, they're not the words that are running around in your head.
You're not necessarily conscious of it.
No, they're just controlling the show.
Why do you think money specifically, and the energy of money, why do you think it holds so much power for people?
I don't know. And I have so much to say, like we have so much.
I have thoughts on this. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I'll be interested in your thoughts, because I have a lot of thoughts, but I can't put together an actual real theory, because there's so much wrapped up in, like I said, success and money go hand in hand.
Right.
We have so much wrapped up in it. I think a lot of it comes down from like church being like, you have to give everything away and you should be living in poverty. A lot of people have the mentality where, you were taught in the church, like money is evil, or you should be living above your means. You should be giving that away. It doesn't mean that you can make more and then give more and still be a very generous person. You don't have to be in that dynamic. But there's also, for women, I think something that doesn't get talked about enough is like, we haven't even been able to have money for very long. We couldn't have loans in our name. We couldn't have houses in our name, property. We were being sold. There was dowries. There's still dowries in some.
I just got the chills when you said that, because that's that generational, that energy, those wounds being passed down and being devalued. Because what was coming to me was that money is power, and money is, symbolizes value, because it's very valuable, right? And worth. So if I don't have money, or I can't make money, then, maybe I don't have value, or maybe I don't have worth, or, like what you're saying, only recently being able to take a loan or whatever. What does that say about us that we weren't able to in the past? What does that say about our value, our worth? That is right? Really interesting.
Value and worth are two words that we say about ourselves, but it's also two words that we use about money. But I don't sit here and talk about the value of I might talk about the value of my table if someone comes over. I'm not, you're just not saying about inanimate objects or things like that. I don't talk about the value of my dog, and let me tell you how much he's worth with the surgeries he had. Exactly. But I don't look at him that way, right? I just look at him like, he gives me love. I love him. He annoys me sometimes, and the world goes around. But that's not how we talk about ourselves. We talk about our value and our worth, like you said, and those are the same words that we talk about with money. And one of the exercises I do with clients is called I Am Money. And it's a visualization, and I put them in the position of they just step into being money, but they're answering questions from the perspective of them being money. Okay. And it's hard to explain, because that's literally that's what we're doing, but it's so eye-opening, because people are just talking about money, but instead of having the same crappy ideas that they would normally have, it's now talking about money as if it's like, what's the problem? Like, why wouldn't you think nice things about me? And
right, sure.
But in that moment, it's generally people are talking about the things that are going on inside.
Sure.
It's not about money, but it always comes down to things like want to be loved, want to be valued, want to be seen. It's never comes down to what we actually think of money. And money, what is it? It's nothing. It's just energy and paper.
100%.
and the
Right.
energy.
It's the value that we place on it, and the
Get it.
meaning, it's the meaning that we place on it, and the meaning that stems from what we were taught and what society tells us, and what, you know, our family of origin told us, and what our experiences have told us, that actually matters. And so you know, I've done a lot of this work myself. I've worked with clients on this, but I have to say, what really piqued my interest is this idea of having these different money personalities. Because I've always thought of money blocks as, you know, really only coming from your life experiences and the lessons and the things that you've been taught and the generational patterns. But I've never thought of it as we each have these predominant money personalities that would be driving the bus. And this is really fascinating to me. And I have to tell you, I mean, I took your money personalities quiz, which I posted in the group, and, you know, we'll leave the link here again, but it was spot on. So I really want to dive into this aspect of things, because I think this is incredibly unique. So tell us a little bit about that. What are these money personalities? Like, what's the deal here? How did you stumble on this?
So I didn't create them. The money personalities, it's based on Kendall Summerhawk's work with the Sacred Money Archetypes. There's 8 of them, but it's sort of the same thing. It was when I was in my journey of trying to heal my relationship with money. I stumbled on this, did the quiz, and was like, yeah, this is exactly who I am. Like, this is scary.
Yeah.
And so I took her program, I became certified in her program, and then I've gone on and become like NLP certified and mental emotional release. So I have lots of other tools now as well.
Yeah.
But this, I have things that I can get way more specific with people and clear out their more like tiny, minute, specific beliefs. But I keep coming back to this because it gives me such a good picture of what, like, an overall picture of who somebody is. And it gives good insights and awarenesses. And, you know, you can't change anything until you have the awareness. So the money personalities, there are 8 of them. They all have their own strengths, challenges, weaknesses. None of them are better or worse than the other. Although if you're reading them, it might sound like, oh, that's a good one. I wish I was that one. But
yeah,
they have their own strengths and challenges. So it's not like anybody is better or worse than the other. And it's just, there's 8, you're a combination of all 3, but you're predominantly influenced by your top line. And it kind of just gives a really great overall picture of who you are when it comes to money, what makes you tick, the way you think, what you're going to kind of innately and naturally lean towards doing if you're operating from, you know, like as a kind of in alignment, and then also kind of an indicator of what you're going to be doing if you're operating from the shadow side or kind of out of alignment. And alignment's a catchword these days. But and from there, you know, you may do the quiz, we may sit down, we may chat, and it may be like, oh wow, okay, like you're really operating really good here. You've got all this stuff is you're in alignment, but there's a couple little things we can tweak. Or it might be somebody who's just so far out of alignment with all the positive aspects of their personality, and they're just really operating from the shadow side. So it might be someone like the accumulator, for example, which is, I think you got yours, your number 3.
That was my 3rd one. Yeah.
It's the banker. So I think of it kind of like Scrooge, right? Like, here's my money. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep it all right here.
That's 100% me, by the way.
Yeah, it's all about safety. The accumulator is all about wanting to be safe. And
100%.
So the money, like safety comes from the money rather. So they, in essence, you look at them and they're doing really well. No debt, savings plan, more plans. And then they don't overspend, they don't indulge. So on the surface, everything looks like, yeah, okay, those are really great. But they also, especially in the entrepreneurial world, have a hard time investing in themselves, have a hard time investing in their business. They might have like just caps on. I had one client who couldn't spend more than $200 in one sitting. So she wanted to buy the table she was buying for her apartment, and it was $400. And she looked at it for a year and she wanted it, but she had into 2 separate, like she had one 200 swipe.
Yeah.
She just couldn't do it. Now that brings a lot of stress.
Is that because she was giving meaning to what it meant to spend more than $200?
And so, yeah, she had like for her, it just felt very unsafe, very unstable, very scary to spend more
Okay.
than whatever. We didn't really get into where the $200 thing came from.
Yeah, that was her max.
That was,
Yeah.
that was her big thing. I had another accumulator client who everything about money was just very stressful, and debt was a very, very, very stressful thing for her. But she was a nutritionist and a nutritionist, massage therapist, and a personal trainer, and she had dreams of opening her own like wellness center, but she could never do it because she could not put herself in debt.
Sure.
It's not consumer debt. You're gonna, you're gonna get a property, you're gonna do leasehold improvements, you're gonna have a business, you're gonna make
right.
Sure.
Sure.
I couldn't do it because the stress was just so much. So this is what this kind of modality helped me to do, because it really helps us see where you are now and then where you're operating from, like the shadow side, and where we can just pull you into a little bit more alignment.
So talk to everyone. Like I think I know I know what you're referring to when you're talking about the shadow side, but how does that work? Because I love this idea that like none of them are better than the others. They all have their strengths and they all have their shadows, like what does that mean? Like, give us an example of maybe what the shadow side and the, I don't know what you call it, but the strengths, I guess, are of like a particular, like my predominant was the ruler. So like, what's an example of how it can be this? I think of it almost like the empowered and the disempowered version of it, kind of.
Exactly. And empowered, disempowered, the aligned version, the unaligned or disaligned.
Sure.
Not sure which way that word's supposed to go.
Out of aligned.
Aligned and aligned.
Yeah.
So and that's all. Like the shadow side, it's a bit of a psychology term, I think, but that's how I think of it.
The part we don't see, the part that we're really unaware of, but very often drives the bus and drives the decisions that we make in our business, but it's the shadow, it's behind us. So we're not aware of it.
And if you don't know, you can't change what you don't know, right? So with the ruler, ruler's strengths are you're very courageous, very visionary, very determined. You like creating, the whole thing is the ruler is all about the empire. They are the inner empire.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is so dead on.
And they don't say, like, they'll be the ones when you run into them in conversation out in the world and you talk like, oh, I'm not, like, they don't say I'm running a business or I'm starting a business. I'm building an empire. Like they use the word empire even. And for them, they're very innovative, but their challenge is they don't enjoy life in the moment. They can find it really hard to like stop working and just enjoy.
Sure.
They like overwork. They're always working towards their goals, which obviously isn't a bad thing, but they're always kind of chasing that moving target. And as we all know, like, you set us whatever your goal is, let's say 6 figures this year, as you get closer to the end of hitting that 6 figures. Well, now it's like, well, now maybe I'll go for multi-six.
Sure.
Goals do shift, but they don't stop and celebrate the goal as they hit it. They kind of just keep going, and they're always chasing this moving target. There's never enough money.
Yeah.
So outwardly, that might not look like a bad thing. You might look driven. You might look like you're driven. Your business is doing good. You're innovating. You're successful. But at the same time, you're the kind of person that might wake up one day and be like, and not you, because you've got the alchemist as well, but like someone who's very ruler focused would wake up one day and be like, oh, wait, I'm 50, I'm 55, and I didn't enjoy any of my life. I've got this money. I divorced because I didn't spend any time with my family. And you can get, the ruler can kind of get too focused into what they're doing. And then kind of the rest of life just sort of falls off around them.
Yeah. 100% dead on. I love what you just said about how, but you have the alchemist in there. So they interact with each other. Okay. So tell me about that.
So
do you want to maybe like, do you have time to give just a very high level overview of the main ones, or just to give people, some examples of.
Here's what they are. I have to do them in alphabetical order. I forget. There's the accumulator, the accumulator, which is the inner banker. Like I said, that's the one that's going to be really good at saving, not be in a lot of debt. If you do the quiz, you'll find out what you are, but not be in a lot of debt.
And let us know down below which of these like resonate for you. Rayanne, what did you get? Rayanne said she loved the quiz. So what did you get, Rayanne? Just curious, because this is always fun.
Yeah. The idealist is, the accumulator is an idealist. They are all about ideas, and they're all about like social justice. They're the one that's going to be running some sort of, movement, like they're creating movement, or they kind of have a love-hate relationship with money. They don't really want to have to deal with it. They don't really want to have anything to do with it. They just see there's just social injustice that comes from it. And they can kind of like, money just kind of falls out of the sky for them. But this love-hate relationship, they're like, they don't really go out and create their own, because it always just somehow shows up when they need it.
Wait, that's the accumulator you said?
That's the alchemist.
That is so, yeah. That is me.
Yeah. And
your quiz is gold.
It's so good.
And then so dead on.
The connector is the relationship creator. So they're all about just creating relationships. They, I don't want to offend anybody. In my mind, the way the connector is, they like to keep their head buried in the sand about money.
Yeah. That's
so I think about them a little bit. No, I kind of think of them as like the 1950s, 1940s, maybe housewife who didn't work, got an allowance, cleaned the house, didn't know anything was going on.
Right. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Got it.
I know, just as long as I don't have to worry about it, I'm just going to have my martini. You'll have a martini at 5 o'clock and we'll all be happy.
Yeah. Like ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. So I'm the alchemist connector and the nurturer. And that is 100% me. And then the celebrity is the big shot. So kind of like you'd imagine a celebrity being there, very, people are very drawn to them, big energy. They're really good at being center stage. They're really good at making other people, like bringing other people in and like, no, but look at this person. You should have it, like put the attention on them too.
Yeah.
Very erratic spending, because they have they often will have the champagne tastes on the beer budget.
Yes. I think I know a few of those.
A little bit of a thing for them is like watching how much they're spending.
Yeah.
The maverick is the rebel, the inner rebel with the cause. Like they've got stuff. They're all about risk. So they're very, financial risk is a bit of a thing for them. So on the outward, it may look like, again, they're the ones in the entrepreneurial space that will start a business. It'll do well. Some reason nobody knows why it fails. Somehow 6 months later, they have another business and it's doing well. Like they always seem to come out on top, but they do these financial risks, and they're not really great at kind of creating a financial foundation. And then being like, I've got this much in the bank now, I'm going to be risky with this much money. And then I've got this much, and I'll be risky with this much, would be a really good way for them to do it, but that's not what they do.
Yeah.
And then this is the thing, once you know what you're disempowered or out of alignment, the shadow side, if you know that if you're operating from that side, you're going to be really risky with your money. Once you know that and you have that information, then you can start being like, okay, this would be a really good thing for me to do. I have this much money. Now I'm going to be risky with this much money. My business is stable over here. I want to start something else over here to kind of fuel my fire, but I have all my stability over here, like creating stability and being risky, not just being risky. What else? There's the nurturer, which is the caretaker.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people in your group would be, I would guess, alchemists, nurturers, connectors, because they're all the heart-centered, purpose-driven kind of people, right? The nurturers, they want to take care of people. Generally pretty good with their own money, but they get into financial trouble because they're trying to take care of other people, whether they're taking care of it by loaning money, or they're taking care of other people by giving so much of their own time that maybe they're taking away from their own income generating.
Right.
The ruler we spoke about, and then there's the romantic, and the romantic is the kind of like the hedonist. They're like all luxury. I have a client right now. She's a hedonist. She's the romantic, and when we're on our call, I I just want to walk around your house and like touch things. Everything just looks so luxurious and textured. I'm just
so interesting because as you're going through them, I'm like, oh yeah, this person in my life is that. And this person in my, like, and now I want to give everybody the quiz and see what combination they are, because I feel like,
yeah. And that's
just see the patterns.
Point. Like once you start to see, like once you start to know about them, you just start seeing it in other people. And really good if you do the quiz, if you have a partner, get your partner to do it, because it'll be really enlightening to see. Like I'm
100%
the and the nurturer. I basically designed to not make money, not give a shit about money, and just take care of people, build relationships, and have nothing to do with money. And my partner is the accumulator, the ruler, and the maverick. So we could not be possibly further from. And I kind of think of it as well, like the sort of heart-centered, purpose-driven yogis and like that kind of stuff versus the like the corporate America.
Yep. That's who I'm married to, the corporate America. I mean, he turned yogi, healer, coach, but Wall Street for 25 years, like all the things that you're describing, like the craziness. Rayanne says, let's see, she tied for celebrity and alchemist and chose alchemist. Yeah, awesome. I chose alchemist also in a tie, and head is buried and you avoid money a lot. Yeah, I mean, this resonates. I think everybody can find themselves within these different patterns. So what do we do? What do you help people do with, like, when they find out what they are and kind of how it's impacting their business? How do you begin to like shift that?
Well, with this, like with the money personalities, a lot of it is behavior and habits, right? So if I had a client, this is when I work with clients in my one-to-one, this is the first session we do this. We figure out where we do like a little reading, we get into it really deep, and we see where these things are playing out for you, what's resonating, what's not resonating. And like, okay, so, you know, like I said, I have one client, or I didn't say, but I have one client, she's a connector. She 100% resonated with the whole picture of the 1950s housewife. She's like, that's totally me. Wasn't looking at her money, wasn't looking at her bank state, like was never looking at her bank statements.
Yeah.
She was making money, she was making good money, but in that situation, like she didn't know, she never knew where she stood. Like, do I have money in the bank? Do I not make, I had a great month. I made 50K last month. So I'm just going to buy this, and this because I made a lot of money, but I really don't know what I have left over. So, you know, when I'm working with clients, it's, you're not in a cookie cutter program. So it's kind of like everything is individualized to you.
Yeah.
We'll sit down and we'll make a plan. Like what are your actual goals? What do you want to do? What do you want to work on? And once we know what our goals are, then we do this and we see where some of the limitations might be, some of the challenges, and then we can start setting up things. Like, so for example, with that client, it was, okay, like the action steps were all focused around opening your bank accounts, creating a money date with yourself. A lot of stress around not knowing, like a retirement plan. But because she wanted to keep her head buried in the sand, she wasn't going and finding those things. I was like, okay, go to the bank. Just go talk to one guy at the bank. Baby stepping this. So by the time we were done working together, she had all of her financial house in order. And then on the other side, I can use the NLP and the MER to kind of really target the individual beliefs that are coming up along the way as well. And the habit changes and then behavior changes that have to support those things.
So tell us a little bit about that, about the MER and the NLP, and how do you kind of find these money blocks? Because like you said, they tend to hide. You know, how do we even become aware of like what particular blocks or beliefs that we're holding?
So I think, awareness is everything. And if you're doing it on your own, you need to be monitoring what you're saying, what you're thinking, either the words that are coming out of your mouth or the words that are going around in your head over and over and over again. And if you catch yourself, like before I started doing any of this work, my alchemist and my connector, where my money mantra, I don't need money. I don't need money. And I had this really flippant voice to say it to, like, I don't need money, with a shrug. It's okay. I don't care about money. I don't need it. Like,
it's hilarious.
Yes, sister, like you do.
Yeah, you do.
You have a really nice idea of a lifestyle that you want, and you have bills.
Right.
You do need money.
Right.
But, you know, that was kind of the thing, start looking for just the taglines that you have that you're saying over and over again. And that's a good spot to start digging into, like, why do I say that? Where did that come from? Is it true? Is it true? Is the first one.
Is it
It's
true?
true? Is it true that I don't need money? No, it's not true. I need money. I'm in debt and I have bills. Is it, you know,
how do I know? It's
is
true.
it true for me? Like, and then for the way I test with clients to find out if it's an actual belief versus just like a negative thought or something you're picking up from around the world is like, does it feel true? If it's just something you're saying and you're like, yeah, that's true. But does it feel true in your body? Because if it feels true, it's a belief. Or there's some, maybe that word, maybe that one line isn't the belief, but there's a belief underneath it that's driving it.
Right.
And it all comes down to like how it's feeling for you.
Right.
Your conscious mind can look at it and go like, of course it's not true. You need money. But there's something else in you go and like feels. For me, I always feel it in my stomach, like a big clunk in my stomach. It's like something.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, am I just trying to convince myself that I know? It's like you're playing ping pong with yourself. Like your logical brain comes in and goes, well, of course I need money. Yes. And there is a part of me that still kind of believes this other thing. You know, are we willing to explore this part of me that has this belief that isn't logical, but came from somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, like the beauty of coaching is we don't have to dig in like therapy and you have to spend like, you know, years on the couch. You can go back and start digging into things and figuring out exactly where they came from if you want to. And like for me, I grew up on the East Coast of Canada. It's a poor area. Everything is seasonal. All the work is seasonal. So fishing, farming, and tourism were the main industries, and they all run from May to September, 4 months. That's it. And then the winter and the other 8 months of the year, everybody's on unemployment.
Wow.
And there's a huge hustle mentality, but it's not hustling to get, like, I live in Toronto now. Everybody's hustling here. Everybody's hustling to get ahead, but they weren't hustling there to get ahead. They were hustling to get by.
Right.
And so I picked up so much stuff from there. You know, anybody with money is an asshole for sure. Sure. Nobody had any. You know, and that's where I got the whole, like, I don't need money, or like, we don't need money, because I was always taught money doesn't buy happiness. Money isn't like money. Yeah. I had one. It's just gone right out of my head. But I was taught those things because I was just taught that money is not going to buy happiness. You don't need money to be happy. And we were always kind of looking at people that had money as if they were kind of like that. So, you know, you can start to look back into your past and see, once you catch on to one of those phrases or taglines that you're saying a lot, then you can start to look back and like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And if you can find the root of it, and then you can start to see like, oh, that doesn't really make a lot of sense for me.
Yeah.
When I very first started digging into this, and it actually may have been like the thing that started my journey. I was starting off my business, nutrition, like I said, wasn't able to charge anybody any money, wasn't able to get this business off the ground. I would make a little bit of money. I'd run this challenge. It was January. I just run like a 4-week challenge. After January, I made a little bit of money and then just like let everything tank right after. And then I'm journaling one night and I was trying to like journal, like, why can't I get my business off the ground and blah, blah, blah. And like, can't remember the question I asked, but the answer that came back when I actually listened to what was coming back, which is also key.
That's the key.
Women shouldn't be successful, which I was raised to be anything I want to be. Girls can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I was 100% hardcore, a believer in all of that stuff. But I was shocked when this came up. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Where would I have come up with a thought like that? And then the next pictures that my unconscious mind started showing me was movies in the 80s, cartoons, all the cartoons in the 80s. Any comment like Cruella de Vil?
Yeah.
Who wants to be Cruella de Vil and kill puppies?
Right.
anybody who was successful, it was just these pictures of like
So
on
interesting.
soap operas who were off killing people, and they were always the evil ones. Movies where the only successful women were the secretaries, or were only women in it were the secretaries, and then the successful men were cheating on their wives, they were leaving their homes, they were never home for their families, and like I shown this like great big picture of all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, well, if that's what I equate success to, why would I want to be? I don't want to be.
Of course.
So
Right. If money is bad and success is bad, then I don't want that because I don't want to be bad.
I don't want to be bad. I was raised.
Period. Block.
Yeah. And those things get, we form most of this stuff before the age of 7 when we're in that imprinting phase. So none of it has to make sense to your adult brain, because it doesn't, right? Yeah. And it's your little girl brain or your little boy brain.
Yeah.
That made sense.
Rayanne keeps saying, well, wow, were we sisters? I grew up that way too. And she keeps resonating with the things that you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Rayanne, where are you from originally? She says, I'm mission driven, not money driven. That is really, really powerful, because again, it puts this perspective on money as being a bad thing. Like, of course you're mission driven and the money follows, but that doesn't mean that having money is like a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Wyoming, small town, tough economic area.
Yeah. Yeah. So makes sense for sure. And that's totally. It. And you can be, so Rayanne, you're hearing this today, right? So you can be mission driven, and you can have all of your drive and all of your thoughts and all of your power go behind your mission, as long as you're still charging well for your services and you're not driving yourself into the poorhouse. Because if you do that, like I was, you're not even going to be able to keep your business open. So your mission you're not even going to be able to keep your mission alive, right? So as long as
you say that all the time,
as long as you have stop gaps in place, like use your mission to be your driving force, as long as you're checking in with yourself every 6 months. Do I need to increase my prices? Why am I not increasing my prices? Like just really checking in to make sure that you're not holding yourself back just because you're following your mission, because it should all be about your mission.
100%. That goes without saying in here.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, we're purpose-driven entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But we have to break this stigma and this idea that just because you are driven by a mission or your purpose means that you shouldn't be charging what you're worth. You shouldn't be receiving money, or, I've also heard like it's not spiritual to, like my gifts, are coming from God, or they're my gifts. I shouldn't be charging for them. Like that's bad or wrong of me, which, of course it all stems from somewhere where that's coming from. So what do we do when we recognize that there is this belief that we have, or there's this repeating thought or idea that we have that is not supportive of where we want to go? What do we do with that?
Well, I think the first thing, like I said, is it true? A lot of times, I don't know if you know Byron Katie, right? Byron Katie's work, right? It's going through, it's asking the questions and just really investigating, like, is this true?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Is it really true though? Like, is it really, really true? Is there any part of you that believes it's not true? Or is there any evidence you can give yourself that shows it's not true? Because once you can start to I call it creating doubt, but like once you start to create a little bit of doubt, then you can start to latch onto your brain can start to release a little bit of the hold on the belief.
Right.
If you're going to sit there and nope, this is true and it's true and that's it, I'm going to cross my arms and I'm not like, then you don't have any wiggle room to change. But if you can start to create a little bit of doubt, like show yourself some examples, look for some examples. Women shouldn't be successful. Is there no woman out there in the world that is successful who's not cheating on her partner and away from her kids all the time? Like find yourself the evidence to start to break down the belief.
Right.
I mean, obviously you can use certain techniques as well. But these are like things that you can, these are things you can do at home kind of stuff. Creating the doubt is one, asking the question, affirmations, I believe in affirmations, but you have to make sure that you're actually believing them yourself. Like if it's just you throwing words out there that you don't actually believe.
Absolutely.
You know, the trick to get around that a lot of times is I'm like, instead of being, I am a wealthy woman, it can be, I'm committed to becoming a wealthy woman. I find that I'm committed to can really change so that you're not like, you know, you're committed to doing it. You're not so much saying you are it already.
Yeah, no, I am a big believer in affirmations, but only when you customize them to the actual belief that you're trying to sort of reprogram by, you know, kind of looking at the evidence and looking at, you know, if I were using my highest self, you know, what is a belief that I can choose to have, you know, to essentially replace that with, you know, after you kind of go, it's like a 12-step process, but it does take you through going through the evidence of the belief, the evidence against the belief, and what is that new empowered belief that you can choose to install, and you write it yourself. Like I don't think that, you know, just looking at the internet and just saying, I am this, I am that, there's a disconnect. Like it has to, I think, you know, derive from the belief that we're trying to replace, you know, what is a version of that? How can we look at that in a more empowered way that makes me feel like I'm connecting with my highest self, not my fear-based self?
Yeah. And I think that's it, right? Like you have to do a little bit of the work and come up with something as a takeaway from what you're doing, not just like, oh, I'm just going to say these things and everything's going to change.
No.
Right. So like digging into, is it true? You can dig into the where it came from if you can find, if you can figure out where it came from, like I did with the women shouldn't be successful. It was like I had this sweater on at the time, and sweater was ancient, it was super soft. For whatever reason, I was like, oh my God, I'm so itchy. I had this massive rash that busted out around my heart, like massive. It was one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me. It's only happened to me a couple other times in Reiki. And at that point, I hadn't even done the Reiki before. So it was really, really crazy. But it was because I started digging into it, right? Like, why is my question? If you're doing this at home, get a piece of paper, get some candles and something nice and some music, and, you know, sit down and make yourself a nice little space. And then why? Where does that come from? Like just question.
Yeah.
Why would I think that? Where would that have come from? Because when you start to do that, you start to get like, oh, you know what? My dad used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
Are those even my words then? Or is that my belief, or is that his belief?
Right.
Really kind of digging in and investigating.
And is this a belief? Maybe I have been carrying that belief with me, and the voice in my head is telling me that over and over again. So, you know, I think that is my belief system, but being able to look at it and go, okay, do I believe that? Like, am I choosing to carry this belief with me, or am I choosing to give it back to its rightful owner? Like making that choice.
Yeah, I love that.
This is mine, or this isn't mine. Do I want, okay, that's fine that this has been with me for 40 years. Do I want to still keep it? Maybe you do. Right?
Yeah.
But being able to have that power over it, to make that choice instead of it having this power over you.
And it's a really good point, because we have the decision, we have the power to make a new decision at any given time. Right. So you can decide
to take a new action, to have a new belief system, to look at our situation from a new lens. That is where your power lies. And that is why, you know, doing mindfulness meditation work, retraining your mind to be in the present moment so that you can make a choice, because you're awake, you're aware, you're not on autopilot.
Yeah.
just kind of going through the motions where your conditioning is controlling you. You want to be in the driver's seat where you are controlling it. And you can only do that when you are present and in the moment and aware of when these thoughts bubble up. When we're just kind of going about our day aimlessly and we're not choosing to be intentional as we go through our day, then these thoughts are firing, which are causing these feelings and these emotions, which are causing the habits and the actions that we're taking. But when we're choosing to be conscious, like the listeners today can't unknow this or unhear this. So you have a choice. You can go about your day and just curiously notice what is coming up for you so that you have that opportunity to shift it, or you can hit the snooze button and go back to sleep, essentially.
It's exactly what it is, right? Because most of us when we get caught, and this is the thing, we get caught up, right? And I think this is like, I always found it really hard to just like, okay, well, just as you're out doing your stuff, like just notice. I'm like, I don't notice because I'm listening to a book in my earphones. I'm walking my dog. I'm paying attention to what he's doing. I'm thinking about what I'm making for dinner, right? Like, so I think too, if you're finding it hard to like figure this out on your day to day, like set aside some time.
Right. So it's like, okay, maybe I'm going to choose to just be mindful and be present every day when I'm doing the dishes. Like, every day when I'm brushing my teeth, or every day when I'm taking a shower, like tie it to something that you're doing daily so that it's like, okay, every day when I take a shower, I'm going to be present to the sounds I hear, the feelings I feel, the smells that I smell. And then eventually, this is the very beginning of mindfulness, but eventually you do start to rewire your brain to be more present in the moment so that when these things come up, you can be aware of them, of what you're doing and, how maybe it's controlling you, or driving your decisions so that you can choose to make a new decision that's more empowered or whatever it may be. And this is really, how we begin. I love that. That's so good. So I dropped the link for people to take the quiz. We'll put the link in the comments to the Savvy Money Mindsets for your Facebook group. How else can people connect with you? Is that, are there other places, or what's the best way for them to find you?
So I will just say one thing, because in the quiz, when you figure out your money personality, there are little tips in there to like kind of get you started. Like, what if this was possible? And you can start
awesome
for those questions, and that can kind of start the ball rolling for you. But yeah, the group is a perfect spot to catch me. I will be changing the name. I was waiting till we were finished with today, and then so next week sometime the name will be changing, but the link will be the same. And so the group is really great. You can catch me on Instagram as well at Christa Cheverie, and you can hang out with me there.
Awesome. Do you know what you're changing the group name to?
Yes, Financially Free Entrepreneurs.
Yes, I like it.
Yeah.
Very good. Good move. Excellent. Well, Christa, thank you so much for being here again with us today. I so thoroughly enjoyed this, and just really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your wisdom. I know that those that were on and will watch the replay are definitely going to benefit quite a bit. I know I have. And thanks again.
So fun. So fun.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.